Okay, welcome everyone as we learn the Mishna Yomis, finishing the 7th parak of Yevamos and starting the 8th parak. That's so nice. I will tell you the Mishnah is easier than last night's Mishnah. We are dedicated by the Fisher family, Lili Nishmas Basi Bas Robert, Shlomo ben Avram Alevi Pero Bas Ruvain, and Neshama should have an Aliyah. We learn Lili Nishmas Avram Yishai ben Shmayo Yosef, for Lefu Shalem for Aliyah Moshe ben Chayesara, and for the schools of Avram and Yom ben Ishbemalk Yudis and family, by Yod Klugman and family for the Parnasa, V'Revachu V'Chavayit. We learn Lefu Shalem for my Shver Avigdor Aryeh ben Rivka, and a big mazel tov. His grandson is getting married tomorrow night. Actually, it's his granddaughter getting married tomorrow night. And Lefu Shalem for our grandchild, Hayeled ben Chava, and for Meir ben Chayes. So they should have a Refuah Shalema b'Seich Shaychel Yisrael. So we start with the final Mishnah in the 7th parak, Mishnah Vav. Now let me tell you this case outside. It's an interesting thing. It's a little bit of a riddle. How could a grandson who is a Kohen Gadol disqualify his grandmother from eating truma? Imagine that. He's a Kohen Gadol. He goes into the Kodesh Kadoshim on Yom Kippur. He's a saintly Kohen. And he disqualifies his grandmother from his very existence from eating truma. And it's a wild case, but it goes like this. What happened is Mrs. Cohn, from a great Kohanic family, marries Ruvain, who is Yisrael. Okay, listen. They have a daughter, Sprinza. Sprinza marries Mr. Cohen. She marries a Kohen. And they have a child, Hananiah Cohen. This Hananiah Cohen is the most promising child. He's a saintly child. He grows up and he becomes a Kohen Gadol. This is Mrs. Cohen's grandchild. Mamish, the light of her life. Hananiah Cohen, her Kohen Gadol grandchild. Now what happens is Mrs. Cohen's husband dies, the Yisrael. And her son-in-law, the Kohen, also dies. He doesn't have to die, but he does die. And now remember, Mrs. Cohen was married to Yisrael, so she could only return back to eat the truma of her parents' home if she doesn't have any descendant from her Yisrael husband. But her grandson, Hananiah Kohen, the Kohen Gadol, is a descendant from her husband, Yisrael. And therefore it stops her from going back to eat the truma of her Kohanic family, of her Kohanic parental home. So here, her Einakel, the Kohen Gadol, which is her last descendant of her husband, Yisrael, blocks her from eating truma. At the same time, remember she had a daughter, Sprinza. Sprinza, who was married to a Kohen, Sprinza's husband died, but because of Hananiah, her son, she does eat truma. So the mother eats truma because of her son, but the grandmother doesn't eat truma because of her grandson, the Kohen Gadol. Now let's see that in the Mishnah. It's really an interesting situation. Kohen Gadol, a Kohen Gadol, pa'amim shu paisel. Sometimes he passes his grandmother from eating truma. Ketzad. Bas Kohen Yisrael, Mrs. Cohen marries Ruvain, who's a Yisrael. V'yolnei men Bas, and they have a daughter, Sprinza. V'olcha Bas v'nisis l'Kohen, and Sprinza marries a Kohen. V'yoldei men Ben, and they have Hananiah Cohen. Harizera Elias Kohen Gadol. Hanania can become a Kohen Gadol, and he does. He stands and he serves on the Mizbeach first before any other Kohen. Hanania, if Shprinz's husband, the Kohen, dies, she still eats Truma because her Bubala Hanania is a son from a Kohen. But a Paisalas Amimai, but disqualifies his grandmother from eating Truma, from returning to her parental home, because she's her last descendant from her husband Yisrael, and still blocks her from returning. She can't go back Kinoreh to eat her Kohanic, parental Kohanic Truma. The Zaysai Meris, it says, Loi kibni Kohen Gadol, not like my son the Kohen Gadol, Shul Paislainim, in this case, not like my grandson the Kohen Gadol, Shul Paislainim in that Truma, he disqualifies me from Truma. Now, the new Perek tells us, we know that if a child, his older brother died from a Mila, and there's reason to believe that the family is suffering from something like hemophilia, with the blood doesn't clot, so we don't do a circumcision on the baby. It's called Meisu Achiv Machmas Mila. Now, if he's an Aral, he cannot eat Truma. But his wife and his servants can eat Truma. Same thing if he's Tameh, he can't eat Truma when he's Tameh, but his wife and the servants can. So an Aral v'chalat meim, an Aral, or a husband that has any type of Truma, let's say he's a Tameh Meis or a Zav, Lo yoichel b'truma, he can't eat Truma. But Neshayim v'avdeim, their wives and their servants, they can eat Truma, yoichel b'truma. But let's say Reuven has wounded testicles or a severed male organ. They're forbidden to marry into Klal Yisrael. It says, Lo yavai p'tzua daka u'krus shavcha b'kal Hashem. So, p'tzua daka u'krus shavcha, if they marry a woman, since that woman is not allowed to marry them, so that woman becomes a Zaina. She had to be a Yisura, she was a Zaina, and therefore she can't eat Truma. So, Psuadaka, Krushavka, Hein Vavdein Yechlu, they could eat Truma. His servants, which are Kinyan Kaspa, could eat Truma, but in Nishayim Lo Yechelu, the wife can't eat Truma because she had to be a Yisura, she wasn't allowed to marry the Psuadaka Krushavka, so she can't eat Truma. But what about if she married him before he was a Psuadaka and a Krushavka? And then during their marriage he became that way, and once he became that way, she doesn't sleep with him anymore. So then she never becomes Aser, she could continue to eat Truma. V'im lo yadam mishinasa Psuadaka Krushavka, if she's not intimate with him, she was married with him before this happened, and then Rachmana litzlan lo yaleinu, it happened during the marriage, and since it happened, she wasn't intimate with him, so she never became a Zaina, harielu yechelu, then the wives of this person could eat Truma. We really want to thank you for joining us. Also to remind you that we are looking still, it's already Monday, we're looking still for a sponsor for the Chumash Year this week, 718-916-3100, rmmwsi@aol.com. Also, I want to tell you that I wanted to dedicate the shir to my Talmud Eliezer Steinberg, has a yahrzeit for Rivka Bas Reb Avram. So we dedicate the shir also to Rivka Bas Reb Avram. Her neshama should have an aliyah. And we want to wish everybody a wonderful evening.